Here are 5 controversial theories or controversial takes on theories. The first one is that probability theory is not real. It's a false or made-up concept. Probability theory is used in a lot of things, and it kind of goes hand in hand with statistics. So statistics as well are not a very good system or a very accurate system to use. The reason probabilities don't make sense is because they only work if you don't have information. Let's take a coin toss. If you flip it, it's going to land on either heads or tails. It's not a 50-50 chance, it's a 100% chance. When you flip a coin, you've set in motion its trajectory. When you flip a coin, it has a certain speed, a certain rotation, there's certain airfall, and any other environmental factors. You could game a die roll or a coin toss where you know specifically how to flip it to land on a certain result. Therefore, probability is nullified. If you go to turn on a light switch, and assuming there's nothing wrong with that light switch, it will turn on 100%. If the light doesn't turn on, there's a factor that caused it to not turn on. If you go to get your car fixed, there's not a 50-50 chance that your car works. Either the mechanic is able to identify and fix the problem, or he isn't, which means that he didn't know what the problem was. Not that there's a random chance that all of those components just happen to not work. Something like a die roll in probability works the same way. There's no more or less of a chance for any of the scores to show up when you roll 2 die together. In the same way, 100 coin tosses all landing on tails is just as likely as any other combination. The preceding results don't affect the future ones. Or if it does affect the future results, there is a learning behavior of these forces, which still means it's not random. Probability theory is admitting that you don't know all the information into something. The whole point of science and mathematics is to be able to get reliable information based off of repeatable evidence. Probability theory is guesswork based off of a supposed medium or standard of chance. It's completely antithetical to the concept of science or the goal of science. Yet it's used in all kinds of decision-making and for statistics, based entirely on not knowing information. But moving on to number 2, dentistry or teeth health in general is a scheme. It's an industry developed to hide the fact that our diets, our health is completely corrupted. But most of all, it's to cover up the fact that fluoride is actually damaging for your teeth. The whole practice is pretty sketchy, from removing teeth to changing the location of teeth with braces to needing permanent retainers or to wear retainers your whole life, drilling holes into your teeth and root canals, and the obsession of whitening your teeth and the use of anesthesia. The health of your mouth is a microbiome issue, and that's going to be affected based off of your diet. Fungus is the main cause of most mouth and dental issues, especially candida. None of these issues are addressed by fluoride, and simply masking the issue doesn't make it any better. Your teeth connect to your brain, and when you try to force and move that and change that, it's going to lead to a lot of problems. It's an attempt to address an issue which is not caused by us just naturally having bad teeth. There's a reason why people have messed up mouths and jaws and teeth, and their phenotypes are causing their skulls and craniums and jaws to be disproportionate, which is leading to the supposed issue that dentistry fixes. The real issue is going to be in understanding what number 3 is. Number 3 is that genetics and evolution and genetic mutations and diseases are a myth. The problem with the current theory of evolution is that it's a genetic lottery. So here's the issue with Darwinian evolution. So you can pass on genetic diseases and predispositions to immune diseases, but you can't pass on other characteristics or physical traits you acquire during your lifetime, which begs the question, where do genetic diseases come from? If something like type 2 diabetes is passed on genetically, then where does the first type 2 diabetes come from? The argument you might make is mutations, but a genetic mutation isn't random. We learned with probability theory that there is a cause and effect to everything. Something had to have caused a disruption in the genetic process. So let's say there was a genetic mutation, in which case that person, the first person, still would have had to be able to pass that on to their offspring. This is why I find Lamarckism a better explanation of evolution. While it's true Lamarck didn't have a good explanation of why this would happen, but there is actually an emerging field studying Lamarckism. It's called epigenetics. Your behaviors and your environment and your interaction with that environment can be passed on through your genes to your offspring. But remember, we're more than just a single body. We're an entire ecosystem. We have a microbiome. We've now learned that the microbiome can affect the phenotype. The phenotype is the characteristics that are expressed based off of your genes. Microorganisms can affect and influence that as well as they train the immune system. Evolution is not a random, probabilistic, natural selection process. It's learning and interacting with your environment and training with the intention of an end goal and passing that on to your offspring. This is how horse breeders breed for racehorses. They got the winning horse from one year and a strong mare, and they try to make a better horse. And they raise that horse to be stronger than its predecessors, and they continue to do so. And the same goes for every breed of animals, for plants, and of course for humans. But another big mystery with Darwinian evolution is if it's all random probability, then how do the genes know how to form the body? It's not written in the genetic code to form in the shape that it does. From an embryo, there's nothing in the genetic code to tell it to form in the shape that it does that we recognize as human. The genes are following a morphic resonance. If you've never heard of Rupert Sheldrake and morphic resonance, you should check out his work. He's a chemist that developed a lot of interesting theories where there were a lot of holes in biology and chemistry. Morphic resonance is this process where systems and organisms, so even things like laws of physics and different laws of science, they inherit memory from previous systems. It's an intelligent and learned behaviors of the universe, of organisms, and different systems. Things like, why does water boil at a certain temperature? It had to be learned. Why does the body form the way that it does? It's following the patterns inherited from memory. It's not unlike cymatics and thought forms. But number 4 is viruses. Viruses aren't what we conventionally think of them as. Viruses only replicate in living organisms. To put it simply, viruses are the byproduct or the shrapnel left over from different microbial and chemical processes happening in the body. We've never seen a virus cause a disease. It's only been seen alongside diseases, alongside the symptoms of a disease. We just assume that it was the cause and so correlate it to that. It's a buildup of waste produced by pathogens, toxins, pollutants, all kinds of things that can disrupt normal processes in the body. And they themselves can be harmful like any waste material. But viruses aren't the initial or causative agent of a disease. Number 5 is germ theory. I don't think germ theory is completely wrong. There certainly are elements of it that make sense. Science doesn't have to exist in a duality of extremes. You can have elements of Darwinian and Lamarckian evolution coexist. Instead of writing off a theory and ignoring it forever, we should constantly be revisiting and exploring new options and new theories and old theories. Especially when it comes to health, until everything is figured out, we obviously don't know all the mechanisms and all the processes and causes of everything or the cures to them. Because if we knew how everything worked, we'd be able to fix it. So Pasteur famously had a rival named Bécamp. Pasteur would develop germ theory and Bécamp would develop terrain theory. Again, there's elements to each of them that make sense. It was a bitter rivalry, and obviously Pasteur's theory won out. But let's take a look at a process like pasteurization, named after Pasteur, within light of terrain and germ theory. The idea of pasteurization is that you kill off any potential microbes in a, let's say, milk or juice. This has the benefit of keeping it preserved and making sure it doesn't cause any ailments in the person. You can't get germs from food if you destroy all the potential germs. But for terrain theory, and certainly now that we know about the microbiome, what happens if you never restore the microorganisms that are beneficial for us? But we're not just feeding ourselves, we're feeding our whole terrain, our whole ecosystem, our microbiome. A third of human milk is composed of sugars that babies can't digest. It's prebiotic, meaning it's food for microorganisms. It helps to grow their brains and it protects their gut. And all of those things play factors into the kind of person that you become and the kind of health that you have. If you completely sterilize and pasteurize your environment, you lose that ability to have a healthy microbiome, which means certain foods you won't be able to digest anymore. And then opportunistic organisms are going to move into that empty space and cause issues. Things like genetic diseases, immunocompromisation, and phenotype expressions. All of these things are related. It's a system of inherited memory and passing down traits and passing down colonies of microorganisms and building up the immune system and the brain and health. So those are 5 theories I think worth considering. Thanks for watching.